Welcome, everyone. Welcome back, all the participants from the last 2 weeks, as well as all the new people. So I'm so glad you're joining us. I'm glad that you're taking this hour of time for yourself. And it's just you and us today. So for the next hour, just relax, enjoy this. It's a little bit of something for you. So I just want to quickly just say again, thank you to the HR Talk for arranging these webinars so consistently and regularly and effectively, and making sure that everyone is invited. So thank you to them. And so let's start. So last week we touched a little bit on burnout. So by now you all know my name is Cecilia Denton. I'm an industrial psychologist. I'm the owner of PTS Consulting. We do the psychometric assessments for companies together with HR Talk that does a little bit of the HR support, and we do the psychometric assessments. You know that story by now. So today we're going to do a little bit more of an extension of what we did the previous 2 times, but I'm going to repeat a whole bunch of things. And I want to repeat it so that the message can get stuck with you. And last week we did touch on burnout a little bit. And I was asking some of you guys if you're feeling a little bit more than just stressed, or you feel like you've tipped over slightly towards the stress going into distress. So I want to ask you this morning, do you feel like there's at all a little bit of a difference since last week and now? Were you able to keep an eye on your thoughts? Were you able to manage your day a little bit slower, a little bit more structured? If there's anyone who wants to share their thoughts in the chat box, please do so. I'd love to hear from you as we're going along. This is a very sensitive time that we are in at the moment. And like I said to you last week, we need to take a little bit extra care now. Just we need to give ourselves a little bit more attention when it comes to this. And even if you make slight changes, because your well-being and your better doing is going to depend on slight changes, breaking your day up a little bit more systematically. Something that I did want to tell you last week, something that you can do literally today, right now, from now on until you are able to reach December or the time when you go on holiday. You know how you are at work. You coordinate, you juggle things, you do more than one thing at a time, you're energetic, whatever. Now, when you feel your energies are depleted, scale it down totally. Still do what you're supposed to do, but do it very much in consistent little organized blocks. Take it a little bit step by step. You don't have to now multitask the way that you do. If you want to save your energies, cut back on the multitasking. Do one thing at a time. That's one thing that you can do immediately right now, starting today. Also, I think I told everyone last week, just because you had an off weekend or weekend away, don't think that is going to replenish your exhaustion from the last 2 years, 3 years, 6 months, whatever the case may be, or hectic situation that you may had, incident that you had maybe in the last few months. So don't be surprised if you feel, but I still feel burnt out. I still feel super exhausted, and I have taken a weekend off with things like that. Don't underestimate the build up of all of that tiredness. Okay, so this is what we're going to cover today. I am going to touch on again what is the difference between stress, worry, and anxiety again. I'm going to quickly touch on resilience again. And then we're going to talk about suppressing white bears. You're going to try and do that. And how to control unwanted thoughts, and then how you can increase your mental fitness. Okay, so someone here said, I was aware of what I thought and I need to take breaks, however, not necessarily successful in addressing it. I feel guilty when I take breaks, like I'm stealing time. So that is another symptom of burnout, when you feel guilty. So when you feel that, know that, okay, this is another clue that I have that I'm not doing so well. So when you're on holiday, you're on 2 weeks holiday, there's no part where you feel guilty, is there? So if you feel guilty now, it's your clue, it's a symptom that you burned out. So just keep at it. So now you've started, you're doing little bits. one thing at a time with more breaks at a time, you may find you may even be a little bit more effective and efficient when you do that. Although it doesn't feel like it, because now you say you feel guilty when you take breaks, you may even be more efficient and effective the more breaks you take. So I know that we were not brought up like that. We were brought up to, move it, get going. Now you just want to slow it down, get into this habit, practice it, you will get better. Remember, if you walk around the block once, you're not going to be fit. You have to walk around the block a few times. So just keep at it. It's only been a week. But when you get that guilt, actually write it down. If you don't know how to address it, if it doesn't want to go away, write it down and then forget about it. But we're going to get to suppressing white bears. Then you can practice that as well. Okay, so let me just close that chat box. But please write your things in the chat box as we go along. Right, so let's just touch up on what stress is again. I'm going to do this very quickly because you all know this by now. Stress is the body's reaction to any change that requires adjustment. It's during the adjustment phase that you do well or not. Now that you are a little bit more emotionally exhausted, you may do worse than usual. So your managing of it may be worse. And someone said here, actually walked around the block too. That is fantastic because you want to fill up your lungs with air. That's what you want to do. That's what breathing exercises and meditation also does. It actually takes oxygen to places in the body where it doesn't go to normally during the day. So what happens when we are at work during the day or wherever, you don't even know it, but you will breathe very, very superficially. We don't know that we really do this because it's, you breathe and you continue. You don't think about your breath. When you walk a little bit, you breathe deeper. When you meditate or anything like that, you breathe deeper. That is where the clarifying of the thoughts comes from. Okay, so you understand this part. So how do we look at stress? Remember, there's the emotional symptoms, physical symptoms, cognitive symptoms, behavioral symptoms. I would say that the feeling guilty would fall under emotional symptoms. What you then do with your guilt feeling may become cognitive later on, but it's definitely under the emotional part. So the guilt feeling or regret, any exhausting type of thoughts that you have, take it all back to this and just say, it's okay. I see it. It's okay. I think I also told you last week the difference between stress management and EQ management is with EQ, with emotional intelligence, we teach you how to identify your emotions and what it is that you're thinking. There we just see it, we accept it, we don't judge it. With stress management, we're trying to give you some coping skills. So when you have that emotion or that thought, the stress management teaches you can actually do something about it. And remember, you don't have to drastically do something about it. What you want to do is stop, step back, just relax and think about the way that you're thinking about it. So I would actually like to know, if you do feel guilty about taking the break, what is your behavioral symptom then? What do? Do you cut your break short and go back to work? Do you pick up the phone and just check, is there a message? Did it ping? I haven't heard a ping. There must be something wrong. That's what we do to combat the guilt feeling. So it would be interesting to know what you behaviorally do when the emotional symptom pops up. That is such a good example of the process of stress. It's actually brilliant. Okay, let me know if you want to. What is it that you do when the guilt pops up? Okay, so I covered this last week as well. There's internal and external sources of stress. External, it can be serious things like deaths, injuries, illnesses, relationship breakdowns, crime type of things. Internal would be your own expectations on yourself, demands, misperceptions, assumptions, fear, things like that. So remember, it can be internal or external. Internal, you can keep an eye on what it is that you say to yourself. Okay, so you said you did take the break, you worked later. This is now when the guilt feeling popped up. So that is fantastic. You did take the break and you work later. That is, you are training yourself that it's okay. You're allowed to take the break. Fantastic. Then I want to cover these three parts again. Stress, worry, and anxiety, three different things. So stress, it happens in the body. Stress is an emotional response and is usually caused by external triggers. An external cause could be anything from exams, traffic, boyfriend, girlfriend problems, poverty, unfairness at work, illness, all sorts of things. And stress is happening. Then worry is different from stress in the sense that it's mostly internal thinking and it happens in the mind. So no, worry is not an external thing. It is not something that is caused. It is your thinking that it can be triggered from the stress. So there's a thing that happens and then I start thinking about it. And remember, this is what I told you last week. This is when we stress, we start worrying about it and then we start dressing it up and we give it arms and legs and we put it in a dress, put shoes on it, and then we give it a whole body and a life. Keep an eye on that part. You can keep an eye on what you think about things, that part. Remember what I said, if stressors comes in the front door, you can't stop it or control it, but it will exit around out the back door. Just don't serve it tea. Remember that saying? Someone said that. It was like one of these Buddhist sayings or something. I love it. Just don't serve it tea. It's there. It's okay if it's there. It can just go past. Just don't serve it tea. And then anxiety. Anxiety, this is how everything links together. So anxiety happens in the mind and the body and is caused by persistent, excessive worrying about things. So interestingly enough, anxiety can happen even when there are no stressors. On the other hand, a build-up of stressors over a long period of time can also cause it. So unfortunately, anxiety is the same symptom of stress. So even though it looks and sounds the same, remember that you can control the anxiety a little bit by having your coping techniques ready, being aware of what it is that you say to yourself, and taking those breaks and be mindful during those breaks. Just sit with that 15-minute break, just sitting there. I would like to know who of you have been taking your 15 minutes break without a phone, just sitting you with your cup of tea. Who's been able to do that? Who has done that? And was it easy to do that? Because just sitting, we are on such a fast pace that sitting for 15 minutes is sometimes it's weird. It feels weird because we get the phones, everything pings constantly. So you keep at quite a high level constantly. So if there's anyone who's practiced that, let me know. Okay, so I'm just checking something here. All right, so this is the difference between the three things. Let me just look at the comments here. So someone here said, I did do it. And then someone else said, I'm battling to take the break, constantly busy at work. So you have a lot of practicing to do. I also find a lot of people that say to me, I can't meditate because I can't sit still. It's just because you haven't practiced it. If also a guided type of meditation will also help you. So, but try and take a break by practicing it. Just do one at a time as well. Don't do too much where you feel like it's interfering. And someone says, yeah, I try and sit outside in the sun and have my lunch. That's a good start. Literally do it like that. Also, just being in nature and in the sun. I did some research over the weekend. On my PhD, I don't do research for fun. It's because I'm doing a PhD. I'm not abnormal. So I did read that your cognitive functioning do improve when exposed to nature. So this is probably why people, when they go on leave, when they're exposed to the sea or mountains or greenery or whatever, they actually do feel better. And the cognitive functioning will improve because if the mind clears and calms a little bit, the cognitive performance will actually increase. So there's a little triangle there. So it's research that they've actually done. It's very current. That's why go outside, go sit in the sun, let the sun be on your skin. Walk with your feet on the grass. Take your shoes off, that your feet touches the grass. Little things like this, just 15 minutes. Also, that busyness in your head makes you also think because remember, it's the perception that is extremely busy. The more calmer the mind, the more the perception will be that there's more time. So exercise these things and play around with it. And then, so Henry says, Henry, our loyal participant, I'm glad to see you here today. So he says, I was able to do that without the coffee, thanks for flat battery and load shedding. You see, so if you've got load shedding or if something happens, if you're waiting for something, go take the break outside. Practice it. It's not so easy. So don't think it's just you. You want to get used to that. And remember, science has also proven that the more breaks you take, the more effective you actually is. People think that it's the opposite. Actually, the more breaks you take, it's actually important to take the tea break, the lunch break, and the second tea break. Most of us don't take any of the breaks. Maybe when you're forced to, when you're dead hungry here about lunchtime or whatever. But there's a thing behind the tea breaks. Actually, it's not a labor law thing. It's not a nice to have thing. There's actually I'll do more research on that and tell you next time, because there is actually a story behind it. Okay. So let's see. Then we touched on mental resilience the last time. Resilience is, do you bounce back quickly or do you fall apart? Now you also feel when you are normal, in a normal circumstance, you may bounce back quicker. If you are at that point where you sort of want to burn out, like you're not feeling great, you're not feeling yourself, the rebound may take a little bit longer. You'll still get there because you are your old self. You are yourself. If you're someone who bounces back quickly, you will do it again. But be mindful of this process. And remember, resilience don't make the problems go away. It just gives you the ability to see past it. If you look at past experiences, how many times did it work out okay? Think about it. There is the times where someone does end up in hospital, someone may die, something hectic may happen, yes. But think about it. Most of the time, things turns out well. Most of the time when you think you don't have enough money, most of the time when you think you don't have enough time, most of the time when you're panicked about those things, how many times in your life did it work out well? Think about the age that you are at. I said to my 75-year-old mother the other day, you're 75 already and the world didn't, wat sê mens in English, die wêreld het nie vergaan nie. It's still up until this day, the world didn't come to an end. Sorry, that's in English that I wanted to say. The world hasn't come to an end. And you're 75 years old already. There's some proof in that. There's some, look at things like that. It's you've been around the block a few times. Start trusting yourself as well. And it's okay if you have a crackdown. I call it a crackdown, smackdown every now and again. That's also fine. That's also fine. As long as you can see it, be mindful it, and know, okay, I'm not doing well right now. I just want to be on my own or whatever. Just if you can see it, it's fine. Then adapting to adversity. So resilience is the ability to adapt to difficult situations. When stress, adversity, or trauma strikes, you still experience anger, grief, and pain, but you are able to keep functioning, both physically and psychologically. However, resilience isn't about putting up with something that's difficult or being stoic or figuring it out on your own. In fact, to reach out to others is a key part of being resilient. So don't think if you're resilient, you're strong and everyone has to come to you with their problems. You're not supposed to say anything. I think someone said last week, I remembered, I thought avoiding was a good way of being resilient. And actually, it's really not. That's the time when you can get help. You can address it. You can brainstorm with people. Think a little bit further than your usual habits. What's your usual habit? And think a little bit past it. Look at what other people do as well. It's a time where you can explore. You've got a brain. You can think. You can research. You can ask your friends. You can do things that you don't usually do. Take that break, that 15 minutes tea break. Practice it. Then resilience and mental health. Resilience can help protect you from various mental health conditions such as depression and anxiety. So ongoing stress and stuff can obviously push you into this type of states. It's also fine. You can touch a little bit on it. You can bounce back again. Just keep an eye on it that you don't go off the rails too much. You'll know when that is. And at that point, get some help for yourself. You'll be surprised when you talk to someone, you may bounce back way quicker than you think. So resilience can also help offset factors that increase the risk of mental health conditions, such as being bullied or previous trauma. If you have existing mental health condition, being resilient can help you improve it. Okay, there's another comment. Let me quickly see. Okay, someone just said thanks. Okay, good. Let me jump to the next one. Okay, so how mentally tough are you? So mental toughness is the ability to push through challenging, even painful situations and still come out on top. And remember, you don't have to do it immediately. Give yourself some time. If something horrible happens to you now today, or difficult or challenging, you don't have to be fine within an hour. Just give yourself some time. Just know this was now a real shitty day or whatever. Just acknowledge it, be with it. Then it includes qualities like grit and determination, and it's closely related to emotional intelligence. And all that emotional intelligence tells us is you just want to be mindful of what it is that you're doing, mindful of your own thoughts. So, and this is why I'm telling you here, it says build self-awareness. Remember, people always confuse emotional intelligence with you cry and hug together and it's all soft. But it's not. It's actually being very much self-aware, push through your own limits. A lot of people think that they can't push themselves. My Pilates teacher told me, was it the day before yesterday, he said, it's interesting how the different clients in his class respond. For example, he says some of his clients, if they start getting hot, because I know exercising, when they start getting hot, where the first feeling of hotness, they want to stop because I'm hot. Or if it starts burning, the muscles, then they want to stop because it's burning. You can push your own limits. You can push it. You can actually challenge it a little bit. So challenge yourself a little bit. If a muscle burns a little bit, great. Because remember, a muscle, just like any other type of mental health in your brain, if the muscle tears a little bit, it builds bigger, it builds stronger. So it's the same with your mind. If you can push through certain things, you can push it through a little bit more the next time. But remember, while pushing through, while struggling, you can have help, you can have assistance and support. For example, when I do Pilates and I am suffering because of the exercise that I'm doing, my instructor is still there and he's telling me that you can do it. So you don't have to suffer alone. Resilience doesn't mean that you stand on your own alone. It's just pushing yourself and see how far you can go. Then thirdly, control your thoughts. So if you have self-awareness, you will be able to become aware of your thoughts and even at some point control it. Even if at this point you just say to yourself, remember with the first stress management part 1, I told you, you control your thoughts by saying, listen, I don't know anything. I don't know if I go on holiday, whether I will be in a car accident or not. So to worry about it is useless because you actually don't know. So you don't have to do anything. You just bring your thoughts back to neutral and just say, I don't know. I don't know what will happen. Learn to focus and keep growing. Okay, suppressing white bears. So you want to know what this is all about. So this is a study that was done. So how do you control unwanted thoughts? How many of you feel like you sometimes have thoughts in your head that you want it out and you can't get it out and it's driving you crazy? Sometimes a thing will sit in your head the whole day and it will spin around and around like that. So I know I have that sometimes. It's normal. People have it sometimes. But this study will put some perspective for you on that. So a research study conducted by psychologist Daniel Wegner delivered the following results. He asked participants to verbalize their stream of consciousness for 5 minutes while not trying to think of a white bear. So if a white bear came to mind, he told them they should ring a bell. So you've got participants, he told them not to think of the white bear. If they think of the white bear, they must ring a bell. Despite the explicit instructions to avoid it, the participants thought of a white bear more often than once per minute on average. So he told them, don't think of a white bear and ring a bell when they thought of a white bear. So obviously the bells were going off because everyone was thinking more of white bears while trying to suppress it. So then Wegner asked the participants to do the same exercise, but this time trying to think of a white bear. So now the group has to think of a white bear. So at that point, the participants thought of a white bear even more often than a different group of participants who had been told from the beginning to think of white bears. So the results suggested that suppressing the thought for the first 5 minutes caused it to rebound even more prominently into the participant's mind. So you know why that happened. So the people that are suppressing the white bear thought had a rebound effect. They thought more of white bears than anyone else. So this is what he then called, this is the theory of ironic processes, to explain why it is so hard to tamp down on unwanted thoughts. So he found evidence that when we try not to think of something, one part of our mind does avoid the forbidden thought, but another part checks in every often to make sure that it doesn't come up, and therefore ironically bringing it to mind. So as the mind is trying to give you a reminder, don't think of white bears, and therefore it pops up in your mind constantly. So now what can you do? So there are a few things that you can do to do that, because I think once we try and get things out of our head, that's where it becomes impossible. We try and stop to think about it, and therefore we think more about it. So firstly, what you can do is pick an absorbing distractor and focus on that instead. In one study, Wegner and his colleagues asked participants to think of a red Volkswagen instead of a white bear. They found that giving the participants something else to focus on helped them to avoid the unwanted white bears. So you don't suppress the thought. What you can do is get another thought in its place instead. So, for example, thinking of a red Volkswagen instead of a white bear, that distracts you. So the second part, try to postpone the thought. So some researchers has found that asking people to simply set aside half an hour a day for worrying allows them to avoid worrying during the rest of the day. So this is what I tell students when we do study methods with them. You know, when you all remember, whether it is that you want to work or whether you used to study in school, you would think of a thing constantly and it would bother you. So what I tell my students is make a worry time. So it's now, say, 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm trying to study throughout the day. So I've identified a worry time for 3 o'clock that afternoon, and you just let it go. But the only thing that you're doing, you're postponing it. You're not suppressing it. So that's the difference. And then when 3 o'clock comes, you must honor your meeting with yourself, and then you will worry about it. You can maybe even do something about it, but then you will think about it. It works because you're not suppressing it, you're postponing it. So cut back on multitasking. One study found that people under an increased mental load show an increase in the availability of thoughts of death. Okay, this is very dramatic. One of the greatest unwanted thoughts for most people. What I want to practically suggest to you about the multitasking thing, if you are getting tired, you feel like mentally you're exhausted, you can't anymore, you need a break, this is where you want to stop multitasking. You know, when you're energetic, it's January after December, you're at your holiday, you're rested, you're energetic, you just want to start with things, you feel creative. Then you do all sorts of things all at once. You can coordinate, you can plan, you can multitask, you answer here while you're doing that. Now you can stop doing that. But you will still do one thing at a time. But try not to do this while you're doing that. This is something very easy and very simple you can do right now. You can minimize it and say, I'll look at that just now, I'll look at that 10 o'clock, but for now, I'm just going to finish this. Finish one thing at a time. The multitasking is a little bit more exhausting than anything else. And remember, you'll go back to that when you've got the energy again. Then exposure. This is painful, Wegner said, but it can work. If you allow yourself to think in controlled ways of the thing that you want to avoid, then it will be less likely to pop back into your thoughts. Okay, so don't try and suppress something that's bothering you. I would the most practical, easiest thing that I probably would tell you to do right now is replace a thought with something else, or postpone it to later in the day. Try that. But if you say to yourself, stop thinking about it, that is why it doesn't work. And it drives you crazy, and we don't know why. This is why. Your poor brain is trying to alert you. Please don't think about white bears. Please don't think about it. Then you keep on thinking about it. So play a little bit with these things. Once again, practice it. Don't do it once and say, oh, it's not working. Practice it. Practice it. You'll get better. And a last very easy, simple thing that you can do immediately right now, meditation and mindfulness. So there's evidence that these practices with strengthen mental control may help people to avoid unwanted thoughts. There's because as soon as you breathe deeply, and you just sit by yourself and you breathe deeply, and it may take a few breaths. Don't think with one deep breath you're going to feel immediately better, although some people actually do. But a few deep breaths, actually, it really brings clarity to the mind, and it will calm you down. That's actually why some people that smoke actually do feel better, because they actually take a few very deep breaths, and they take it slow and controlled. I would obviously not recommend smoking at all, but that is, I think, why sometimes people, when they do smoke, they do feel calmer for that 5 minutes, because they do actually take a break where they're just with themselves and their cigarette. So I don't smoke. I really don't like it. It's obviously unhealthy, whatever you do, whatever it is that you like, but there's probably more in the breath than there is in the actual cigarette that's been smoked. So do what the smoker does, just without the cigarette. Okay. Actually, I think now that I'm just thinking about this, I think that research has shown that people that smoke are sometimes more effective because they take more regular breaks, not necessarily because of the smoke, but because they actually take a 5-minute break more often, and they breathe deeply, ironically enough. Okay, so there is someone who wrote us something here on the chat group. So during 1998, I went through a very traumatic experience involving a train, a long story. Anyway, I realized that I was not equipped to deal with it. So I went and requested help. The advice that I got worked very well for me. He told me to, when the thoughts and images came up, I should allow myself to experience the experience and feel the feelings, then make a decision to focus on something else, work or whatever, until the process repeats. Allow the feelings, etc., focus on something else. The cycle became longer and longer until the feelings were dealt with. Absolutely, don't try and get rid of it. It's you, it's your mind, that's what you're thinking and feeling. Acknowledge it and acknowledge that it's there. Don't judge it. Don't try and suppress it. And do try and think of something else. You don't have to suppress that thought, but you can think of something else. And you may need a little bit of help with that. If it's a very traumatic event, if it's a bigger event than just normal stress, you may need a little bit of help with that. But I also sometimes find help is if I feel very funny or overwhelmed or anxious, whatever, write it down as well. Just spell it out. Sometimes it's almost like you can let go of certain things when you literally just scribble it on a piece of paper. Sometimes it is very interesting to see the core thoughts that do pop up in your head. So you're very anxious about something and you write down, for example, the word panic. I feel panic, whatever, and you write it down and you see it. Then you can actually see, oh, wow, this is actually what I'm feeling right now. It's pretty hectic. So let me just step back. In that way, you can also get to know yourself. And some of these things will become easier to deal with. You can control a little bit of your thoughts around that more, but you won't be so terrified when you feel these things or lost because you feel anxious or whatever. So this meditation and mindfulness, very important. Okay, so let's go back to the good old topic where I'm going to tell you again, the physical fitness is very important. So physical fitness gets a lot of attention for a good reason. So good physical health can prevent conditions such as heart disease, diabetes, and help you maintain a long, independent life. So, but often neglected is mental fitness. So having a healthy and strong mind to allow you to handle the challenges and opportunities that life puts in front of you. So remember, last week I also told you that resilience is not just a mental resilience, it's also physical resilience. How healthy is your actual body? It's psychological resilience, emotional resilience. So it's got all of those components in it. And therefore you can work on all of that. So if you do a little bit of exercise and you push through a little bit of the pain, it makes you stronger as well. And remember that physical exercise, actually, it has been proven over and over again that it releases endorphins in your mind. That's why so many people after a run, they just feel so good. It's not a feeling or your imagination. You actually do feel better after you've done some exercise. So, and do good stretches. Learn how to stretch your body. You've been sitting the whole entire day. Learn how to stretch properly through yoga type of things, and have a little thing in your life, like where you try to eat at least moderately good. you have a moderate level of exercise. So to get a little bit of balance back there, you know you can do it. I know we get lazy. Sometimes also the older we get, the lazier we get. You can go push that boundary a little bit again. Right, so now a common thought is that the absence of a mental health disorder means that a person is mentally fit and emotionally well. But according to Rachel O'Neill, a licensed professional clinical counselor, it's a dangerous misconception. So an individual can certainly experience periods of stress, discomfort, sadness, or anxiety without necessarily meeting the criteria for a mental health disorder. So mental wellness is a process, just like physical health. It's an ongoing process to maintain mental and emotional wellness. So for all of you out there that know I haven't been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, I'm not on antidepressants, I'm a fairly normal functioning person, but I'm experiencing all these hectic things right now. So you may think, yeah, but it's not supposed to, because I'm not supposed to feel like this. It's not supposed to, whatever. Don't justify or look for reasons for things. You are also allowed to get tired and be tired, because you have your own unique things that you're going through. There's a unique combination of things that maybe happen to you. The time that we are in is incredibly unique. I've told you the last time as well. Every time now when we assess people psychometrically, the pessimism is extremely high. The anxiety is extremely high. Every now and again, I do see a depression-prone inclination. Those may not even be people that's normally depression-prone or anxious or whatever. The time that we are in right now is very hectic. Actually, I heard from people, I speak to a lot of other psychologists as well, that the anxiety and the stress is actually building up. It's not actually calming down. So don't have any expectations of what it was supposed to. Maybe for you, this is just how you're feeling right now. There's no what's supposed to not. Now we're not wearing masks anymore. Therefore, I should be feeling better because everything is better now. The build up, remember the build up of things. And there's also, remember, no shame in it if you know that you're sometimes a little bit wobbly, you're on an antidepressant, or you see people like a psychologist or whatever. That's what you want. That's what you need. That's what you want. Don't think that it's supposed to be in any other way. The help is out there. That's why there's help. So then, unsurprisingly, trying or stressful times can be the ultimate test of mental fitness. So when we are winded by a major life event, being able to recover quickly requires significant mental strength and psychological resilience. So the benefits of being mentally fit means we are able to use our mental abilities to our fullest extent, allowing us to be more creative, make the most of opportunities as they present themselves, and approach stressful situations more calmly with less anxiety. So how can we increase our mental fitness levels? Okay, so let's look at the next one. So this slide, I just want to pause here for a minute because it's very, very important. Don't question if you feel in some particular way right now. It is just how you are feeling. Okay, so how are we going to increase our mental fitness? Just take one day at a time. I want to go as far as saying, take it 1 hour at a time. So you know the multitasking thing? When you are energized and rested, hey, go back to the multitasking. That's what you do best. You leave it there, whatever. You don't have to keep at it 100% of the time every single day. You don't have to. So you really don't. So what it says here, multitasking is worn as a badge of honor, but multitasking too much is not healthy. So practice being present. When you are taking a walk, take in your surroundings, the weather, the birds, the green grass under your feet. When you are spending time with friends, really listen to what is being said. Turn off your phone and try to get the running to-do lists in your head. Try to forget the running to-do lists in your head. You know, when we have little lists and things and it's probably the most common thought in everyone's brain is, I must still do this. I have to do this. You know, those very demanding sentences or thoughts in your head. The thought in itself is exhausting. So you know what you need to do during the day. So now there is things that you have to do at work. Do it little bits, step by step. And you will also feel better if you allocate time periods to certain tasks. And now I'm going to do this at 10 o'clock. I'll look at that. Also be very realistic in your planning. Don't give yourself an hour for something that may take you up to 3 hours. Then your whole planning is out. But if that happens, just reprioritize again. It's not the end of the world. But try and be realistic and try to be practical. And just for now, slow it down. And so the one thing I can tell you now that you can drop today is the multitasking. You'll get back to it when you're right and ready. You will never lose it. Please don't worry about that. You'll never lose your stress. You can hold on to it as much as you like. It's not something that's going to go soon. Okay, so then let's say set aside time to move your body. So physical and mental health go hand in hand and should not be considered separate, as poor mental health can lead to poor physical health and the other way around. So we often think it's not linked. It is. That's why exercise makes you feel good when you do take that break. So mental wellness is a process, and just like physical health, it's an ongoing process to maintain mental and emotional wellness. So don't get into a habit now of taking your 15 minutes with your cup of tea and you go sit outside and then drop your habit again. Don't start practicing and then drop it again just because you're energized and rested again. That is probably the next thing that you need to look out for, is get into a thing now where you take one thing at a time and you take those little breaks in between. But don't get rid of it just because you were just on a long holiday and you actually feel good. Keep to your good habits. You will be surprised. You're going to be more effective and efficient if you have these little breaks in between. So like medicine, in the treatment of mental illness, exercise can increase levels of serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. Every time when I read about these hormones, there's another thing that they add. So remember also that exercise also is the one that can get rid of some of the bad hormones in your blood. That's why it's always good to do exercise, because it's the hormone that doesn't get out of your blood that will make you sick. So it improves and normalizes the neurotransmitter levels, which ultimately helps us feel mentally healthy. So remember, everything is dependent on the neurotransmitter, the chemical that is passed. It's the communication method in the brain. It goes from one dendrite to the next. So the whole brain is full of this. The neurotransmitter is the thing that carries the message. This is also where all of your depression type of stuff, all of your issues, schizophrenia, depression things, remembering things, all the functions sits with that neurotransmitter. It also gets affected when you stress too much and you can't remember, you go blank. You're affecting yourself. You are affecting the neurotransmitter carrying the message. So there's a lot of stuff that lies in there. So the brain is actually, it's very, very complicated, but it's actually quite simple as well if you understand it. It just wants to be treated nicely. So other important benefits include enhanced mood, energy, reduced stress levels, deeper relaxation, improved mental clarity, learning, insight, memory, cognitive functioning, enhanced intuition. That's such an important thing, enhanced intuition. You may pick up on something that you normally wouldn't. So if you are down, if you are off, tired, exhausted, you may miss things. So that intuition needs to stay sharp. There's creativity, assertiveness, enthusiasm for life, and improved social health and relationships, high self-esteem, and increased spiritual connection. So just once again, the exercise, very important. Then give yourself a daily mindfulness break. So set aside 1 or 2 minutes each day to decompress, check in with your body, and to assess how you are feeling. So there are a number of great apps that can help you incorporate a structured mindfulness practice, or you can simply develop a practice that works for you. So mindfulness, this is once again just becoming emotionally aware. And you're going to start with that 15 minutes tea break that some of you guys have started with already. It starts with that. There's nice apps online. I use the Art of Living. It's the Art of Living .gov. Something. Anyway, but you can Google it, the Art of Living. They have massive amounts of meditation, guided meditation, things 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there. There's also courses where they teach you how to do breathing exercises and to meditate. And then when you really get good, you can go on these silence courses where you meditate longer. And it's just absolutely fantastic. So research the art of living. It's a worldwide foundation. It's a non-profit, and me telling you about it, I'm not getting any kickbacks or money. I really feel I should tell you where you can go to get good stuff. I've got the app on my phone. I haven't even paid the 500 Rand yearly fee, and there's free things on there. You can just switch on your phone and sit and listen to it. 15 minutes, that's nothing. So just 1 week of brief daily mindfulness meditation practice has been found to produce significant improvements in attention, energy, and stress. Research shows that these benefits are more than just subjective. So participants of a study experienced actual decreases in stress-controlled cortisol and improvement in their immune system. They also displayed improved visuospatial processing, working memory, and executive functioning, important sets of mental skills that help you get things done faster. So once again, I'm going to say something that's most of you probably know, or it may be hard to believe, but the more rested you are, the better you actually are. That's why when we teach students how to study, they don't study for longer than 50 minutes ongoing. I give them 50 minutes max. I always say 45 minutes, 15 minutes break, or 50 minutes with a 10 minutes break. So it depends on how the person feels. When you're at work, obviously you don't have to take a break every hour, but there's a reason why there's a tea break. I mean, a tea break is pretty early in the morning. So say you start 8:30, take a quick tea break at 10, then a lunchtime. Again, you don't have to take a whole hour. Even if you take 20 minutes or the half an hour, it's also sufficient. And then the tea break at tea time again. There's really a good reason for that. If you feel more stressed now, like you feel wobbly, you don't feel yourself, take more breaks. And it has to be only 15 minutes. So it doesn't have to be an hour. Quick breaks. And when you have that break, don't sit on the phone and continue to work. Don't do that. Sit there just with you and your cup of tea. Taste your cup of tea. Look around at the sun, the flowers around you. Remember, also the research showed that exposure to greenery actually improves cognitive performance. So carve out some self-time, give yourself an afternoon or evening to engage in something that you genuinely enjoy doing. It can be exercising, reading, binge watching your favorite show. Essentially, make a date with yourself to just do something fun. So this is a little bit different from the mindfulness where you are just with yourself and understanding your own self and your what you're thinking. This is getting in touch with who you are again, doing something fun. Like this is the first thing that goes out the window when we don't have money, when we don't have time, and when we're pressured, is the fun things. That's the first thing that goes. So this doesn't always have to cost you as well, like a hiking somewhere, driving out somewhere to just go somewhere, to go to an outing, or just reading something that you're really interested in. Anything like that. Everything doesn't have to cost you money. If it does cost you a little something, still go and do it. Go fishing or something. Do something that you naturally don't always do. But be creative. Go sit and go back to who you actually are. Who were you when you were younger? When you were in school, you had lots of time to do things. Now you're 45. You haven't done anything of the kind in a very long time. Draw, paint, anything like that. Brainstorm a little bit and get in touch with who you are again. Then set time limits and stick to them. So living in a success-driven society has its advantages, but it also has disadvantages like burnout, which is a real concern when you're trying to have it all: a fulfilling career, an Instagram-worthy time with friends, and happy family life. So remember that it's okay to say no sometimes, to the extent it's possible to set boundaries with your professional and personal life so that you do not overextend yourself. Don't ignore the effect that social media also has on your exhaustion. And because you're constantly still busy, you're still busy, you still keep you're always engaged. So sometimes even watching TV still keeps you engaged because you're thinking, you're watching, you're thinking. the wheel is turning. So see what it is that really makes you relaxed and what it is that you really enjoy doing. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. So seeking help is often the first step towards getting and staying well, but it can be hard to know how to start or where to turn to. So it's common to feel unsure and to wonder whether you should try to handle things on your own. So what I have found a lot of people do, they will feel totally burned out and exhausted, and then they feel, I cannot do this anymore. So they decide, I'm going to go see a psychologist. The thought of seeing someone makes them feel better. Then they cancel it because I'm feeling better. But now the thought of canceling it makes them feel bad again. So they're feeling bad. They decide, okay, I'm going to go see someone. I'm going to commit. Now you're feeling better again because I've decided to go see someone. Then you cancel it again. Can you see that? The cycle. I've seen that quite often because sometimes just before you go to speak to someone, you think, yeah, but I actually feel okay now. What am I going to say? What am I going to talk about? I've got nothing to say. Just go and just talk. There doesn't have to be any demand on you to say something specific. You just sit and you talk. So I don't know if some of you have felt that cycle before. It's a dangerous cycle because it will just continue until you do go somewhere. And sometimes we might feel, yeah, but it's costly. It could really be worth it. Some things are priceless. So and even if you go and see something and it's costing you some money, you can still, if you feel better, you don't have to continue with it as well. But I do think you need to take that step and do it. So let me see. There's a comment in the chat box. Seeking help, committing to it, and be willing to work at it is absolutely the best thing you can do for yourself. Your life literally depends on it. And it's incredibly true. That's why the help is there. That's why people study it. That's why they go into that direction. Because there are people who specializes in that type of thing. Just as you specialize in your work, say, selling things or making things or whatever, these people excel, and the expertise is in helping you. So you don't have to have the answers. They've got the answer and they can help you. So remember that it's okay to also say no sometimes, but to put it simply, there's never a wrong time to seek help. Talking with someone about your thoughts and the feelings can always help you to gain insight. Because remember, someone can give you a perspective from a total different angle that you didn't even know is there. And that can help you see some things differently. But also, I want to go back to the saying no sometimes to certain things, especially now, if you feel a little bit more exhausted and you feel more tired than usual now. Don't stick to those, those things that you feel that you have to do. So it's because it's now getting towards the end of the year. So I need to have a dinner with that person. I still have to have the braai with that one. We're still going to go do, those little things that you need to go do. Postpone or cancel some of those things if you need to. Don't, especially when you feel the way that you are feeling, until you feel better and you've got more energy. So don't do those things where you feel I have to. The ones where I feel like I have to. As soon as you feel like I have to, then it's something that you probably don't have to. But evaluate it. How important is it? Evaluate it. If you know that you've been promising to see someone for a very, very long time and you really do want to go, although you're tired, then go do it. But you can also schedule things in a way that suits you better. For example, the person can come to your place or whatever. You know what it is that I mean. All right. Then in conclusion, mental fitness does not have to take up a lot of your time. Spending a few minutes on it every day can help you feel better and think more clearly. Remember that relaxation is just as important as a mental workout as the more energetic activities, such as the memory exercises or physical exercise. So this is what I think this is the misperception, is when we think that it's going to take our time during our day. I always laugh because when I joined the Art of Living, they teach you how to do breathing and meditation. And every person that joins that goes there, every person, including myself, we go there and we say, yeah, but I'm very busy. I don't have time for this. Everyone says it. And now that I started practicing it more regularly, because I literally felt like I had to, I needed to get something to stick to. And then I realized that we all say the same thing. We all say we don't have time, and it's actually a cliche because everyone is busy. Everyone is extremely busy. And doing the mindfulness, the breathing, the meditation, those type of things actually creates more time because you are more rested. So it is a cliche if you think you're the only one. And then last, in conclusion, don't take everything so seriously. How many things have come and gone? How many things have been there and then it goes away again? If you think about a year ago, there was one topic that was a disaster for you. And if you know it's a year later, now there's a different crisis. Next week, you're going to have a different crisis. That crisis just changes topics. It comes and it goes. So keep an eye on it. But this is what the mindfulness will also teach you is that things comes and go. Observe it, see it, it comes and it goes. Just be aware of what you're thinking. So if there's anyone who wants to add something in the chat box about the stress, if you want to see more of it, if we should repeat it maybe sooner rather than later, we will probably do this again next year. I do want to remind you about the study methods course. It's going to start, I think it's only in the next 2 weeks or so, but I think it is still in September. There's going to be 2 parts for study methods and techniques together with stress management for students. You can be an adult studying part-time while you are working. Any student, university or a high school student can participate. So tell all your friends, everyone, the study tips and techniques that we have is really very good. It will really change your life. It will change your children's lives. The child can just not be younger than 12 because that is too young for us. We're talking about older students that can make their own summaries. We teach them how to do that, and we teach them how to manage their stresses optimally, but we give them options as to how to study. So please get everyone together. I hope to see you then. Keep an eye out on the invitation, so the next sessions will cover that. If you've got any questions, this is my contact details. Please contact us, send us an email, speak to the HR Talk if you want the slides from today. And remember, you only need to do small little changes, small things. You're not going to make a massive, big change. You're going to change small things starting today. Okay, so I hope to see you all next week again. But let me know if you want more topics, if there's anything that you would like to know more information about. We will do the research for you and we'll present it. So if there's anything that you want to see, please let us know. All right, so it was great to see everyone again, and I hope to see you again very, very soon. So let me just see, there's a few comments in the chat box. Fantastic. I hope to see all of you next week. Not next week, I think it's the week thereafter, but we'll send you the invitation. Really hope to see you again. And thank you, everyone. It was great to see all of you again. Thank you for being a great, for being a great audience. I will chat with all of you next time. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.